Okay, got the valve cover off, and I'm going.
Dad call you?
What?
Did your mom or dad call you?
No.
Well, that was your brother Mike. Are you going to say, you know Denise's birthday's on the 18th?
Yeah.
Do you know about it?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, the 16th, we don't know yet. He doesn't know. He'll call back and let us know if nobody has plans then. On Sunday, the 16th, go to the old flower place by her house. Everybody meet there, Mom, Dad, and everybody, you and I, and Mike and them. Someone's going to get a cake, and we'll have chips and whatever. And he said about bringing pots and pans and doing a rattle thing for her. I don't know what the heck that is, but... And he's told me to talk to you and see if you'd want to do it. And then he said he's going to call back sometime and to see, you know. I never heard of something.
Me neither.
Did you?
No.
But that's what he wanted.
Alright.
Okay. Alright. I'm in there if you need me, okay?
Okay, love you.
Love you. Bye, Liz.
Bye.
Can you send me?
No.
Love you.
Basically, you want to get this cleaned up the best you can. Get all the old gasket material off. And in my case, that's more RTV. Got to peel off, but most of it came off pretty easy in one piece. Just take an old rag and wipe it off. Scrape it off if you have to with a screwdriver. And then, mine's really not, because I've already done it, but sometimes where the bolts go through, it actually bends the metal out, causing it to leak. So what you want to do is just find a good flat surface, and then just get a hammer. Hammer it flat. You want to go around every bolt hole doing this, just hammering it flat. You also want to check the pan to make sure that it looks like it's true and straight where it needs to be. You don't really have to pound too hard. These things are pretty malleable. Been pretty easy. You just want it to be flat the whole way across the best you can get it, because that'll cause it to leak. And for these areas where these brackets are, where you can't really get it on like the anvil of vice or something, what I like to do, well, what I did last time anyway, was I took a socket, something that'll fit up in there, and you just sit the socket on the vise. Give it a little tap. You'll have two that have brackets on, These brackets are welded on, I believe, so. How I'm going to do this one. Need a taller socket. That would definitely help. There we go. Now they all feel pretty flat. You just want to check the pan. Make sure the lines look straight. It won't sit level because the bracket's on there. Just however you got to hold it to see. And here's something else I noticed with mine. I don't think this came this way. I don't see why. Somebody cut or ground the edge off here, there, and here. It was on both sides like that, except I think the one edge was beveled like this, and then the cutout notch was down here on the other one. So, really not sure what they were going for when they did that, and I'm sure that doesn't help it seal. But that's why I'm thinking if this doesn't fix my leak, I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and get another pan, whether it be a Fiero one or just another pan off an S-10. But once you get it bent straight and hammered out, just take a rag and some carburetor cleaner if you have to, if yours is really dirty, and just wipe it off. I've already done mine, so just wiping it with this shop towel should be enough. Try to get all the bits of grease off, or oil that you can. And we'll get back to the truck. Okay. Oh yeah. Forgot. Back to workbench. Something I forgot to mention. Whether it be a cork gasket or a rubber gasket, you're going to have a bitch of a time putting the valve cover back on and holding the gasket on at the same time. So I definitely recommend you get a can of all-purpose spray adhesive, or even you could use some RTV, something to hold it up while you flip that cover upside down and put it in place. Because you want it to stay in place, it's just going to make your life so much easier. And basically, you get the cover and just really get the gasket out. And make sure everything lines up, just kind of give it a test fit. Make sure the holes all line up and everything. So, this looks pretty good. And there is a certain way that they go on this engine. There is. It has more of a curve on the one side. So if you try to put it on backwards, it may partially line up, but you should be able to tell that something's not right. So you just kind of look at the natural shape of the gasket against the pan. It has this curve here, a smaller curve not as pronounced curve there. And just test fit it, make sure everything looks good. Once everything looks good, get your all-purpose adhesive, give it a spray, give it a shake. Basically what you want to do then is just spray the back of the gasket. Doesn't need much, just a little light coating should do it. I mean, the rubber will probably need a little bit more than a cork because it's got more weight to it. And then you just basically flip it over and put it in place. Line up all the holes in the gasket with the holes in the pan. And push down to start sealing it to the pan. And you don't even really have to let this stuff dry too much. I mean, it's with this stuff anyways, it's pretty much instant action. It just holds it right on. So then you can flip it upside down and put it in, the gasket stays in place. That's the nice thing about this stuff. You don't have to put no bolts through trying to hold the gasket in place or anything like that. And you just want to make sure that it's got a nice seal. That's it. So, put my socket back. Take the cover, and it is possible to do it without this adhesive. This stuff just makes it a lot easier. I mean, it's not necessary by any means. It's just going to save a lot of time and frustration. And I mean, it's only maybe $5-6 a can. But you can use it for headliners, you can use it for all kinds of stuff, sticking your carpet back in place. So now I've got a good seal. Gasket's on here for good. Now I'm able to flip the pan over and start to put it in. One thing you want to watch though is that as you're putting it in, you kind of have to turn this weird angles, and you've got your throttle linkage here and this bracket, which I actually bent this bracket back. It was up here, about here. So you had to finagle it in past that. I just bent it back because all that is just a bracket for when you remove the engine. So I'm going to give the mating surface here one final wipe down to get any oil or dirt and stuff off. Make sure we get the cleanest surface possible, because your valve cover gasket's only going to be as good as your how clean you made it and how good a seal it gets. Otherwise you're just going to have it leaking. So, ready to put it on. You just want to be careful not to peel the gasket, because it will come off if it gets caught on something or something that sticks to it. It'll come off. But you just basically place it on, get your bolts, and start putting them back in. Just get them all started at this point. Remember where the bolts went and remember where the studs went. In this case, on mine, I can't guarantee you it is right, but my stud was in the front here, in this spot. It would make sense because it's the hardest one to get to. So, just pay attention when you're removing them where the studs were. You just have to move the valve cover around a little bit to get the bolts all lined up right and started. I'm actually going to take my screwdriver and just get this one started a little bit because I'm having a hard time getting it lined up. As soon as it starts to thread in, I'm going to stop. Go to another one. And I believe that the actual specifications are 98-inch pounds of torque for these bolts. You definitely want to look in your manual because that's just off the top of my head. Look online, look at a manual, get one of those Chilton's manuals or whatever. Look in there because that's, like I said, just going off the top of my head. I could be wrong. And I don't want you to be down in the comments saying that you tightened it to 98 and now it's leaking, and then you looked and it was supposed to be 60 or something. So just take the time and check it. Alright, so they're all started now. Now what I'm going to do is begin to tighten them. And this is where you got to be careful, because you over tighten it, the gasket's going to crush. If you're using a cork gasket, it's going to split it. If it's a rubber gasket, it could split it and it might push it out to the side. Well, with both, it'll push it out to the side. You're going to have a leak. So I'm just going that end a little bit tight, then I'll go down to this end. Just turning them in, I'm not even really tightening them. And then I'll go over here, kind of do an opposite and do this one next. Now for that stud, that screwdriver won't work. So I'm going to have to get a 10mm socket that is deep well, 1/4 inch, and use a screwdriver here and just tighten it. So they're all starting to get to the point where I can feel some resistance. Basically just snug them all up until you start to feel some tension. And then you can go ahead and just kind of a little tight. Just snug. Don't go all He-Man on it or anything like that. Technically, unless you are He-Man, you shouldn't be able to tighten it tight enough with the screwdriver that you crush it out. Unless you're going with like 2 hands, giving it a whole lot of hill. But you basically just want one hand, go around a couple times, because as you tighten some, other ones will get easier to turn, they'll get looser. Just snug them up all real good. If you start to see the gasket pushing out the side, stop immediately because you're going too much. And here's where having a torque wrench that goes to 98 inch-pounds is handy. I don't have one yet. May invest in one soon. Okay, so now's a good time to put just the basics back together, enough to get it to be able to run. You want to test it out for leaks. First thing you want to do, if you haven't already, get some engine degreaser. Spray it all over where the leaks were, anywhere that you see oil build up. And get your shop rag and try to wipe it off the best you can. The goal here isn't to clean your engine up so it's ready for a car show. You just want to get all that old oil that leaked off so you can see if it starts to leak again. So if you have to, get a screwdriver and a rag and just kind of jam it down in there and get it the best you can. And then when you're done, in my case, mine is carbureted, so I have to hook my throttle up so I can give it gas while I'm cranking it. So I'm going to reattach my throttle cable. I'm going to clip it in and just hook it on here on the throttle linkage. I'm not even going to bother putting the clip on to hold it. If it falls off while I'm sitting here idling, and no harm, no foul, no accidents. You will need to put the spring back on though, so you don't rev it and have your car sit there tacking out because the throttle won't return. And basically at this point you're ready to go ahead and start it up. Let it run for a little bit and check for some leaks. And don't forget to plug your alternator wire in if you did disconnect it. It may not run the best with some of your lines removed and stuff. Don't worry about that. Basically, we're just testing. We want to get some oil up in those valve covers splashing around. Let it run for a bit, let it heat up. I'd run at least until your heat gets warm. That way you know that the engine's at about operating temperature, and if things are going to leak, that's when they're going to start to leak probably. So swipe everything down. Make sure that everything's away from your fan, your belts and everything. Nothing's going to get caught. Like this air pump line here, it wouldn't have been good. And double check. Everything looks good. Nothing's going to fall in the carburetor. And we'll crank her up. See what happens and pray. Pray it works my last time. See some smoke from your cleaner and maybe any oil that was left on the exhaust. That's going to burn off. So far, so good. Mine was leaking in the corner. basically you want to let it run, get up to operating temperature. If you can, pull it out and clean the area underneath where it was leaking.